Welcome to the Cincy Postcast. I'm Kevin Wallace, and before we get started with today's episode, I want to tell you about our friends over at Streetside Brewery. That's right. Oh my gosh. Okay, I am so excited that Streetside is sponsoring this episode because it gives me an excuse to tell you about the event they are hosting this weekend, Saturday, the 5th of July. They are hosting the first ever hot dog eating contest at Streetside. And what did they decide to call this? Well, they called it Streetside's Wild Weenie Eating Open. Okay? It's all the hot dogs you can eat in 10 minutes. You get 2 beers, a swag bag, and a t-shirt for participating. The name, Streetside's Wild Weenie Eating Open 2025. This is amazing. Streetside, I tip my hat, okay? You have to go check this out. Look, the winner gets a $50 gift card, all right? You can register online, go to their website. Link is in the description. And it's just, that's fun. That's fun. This is what we should be using a holiday weekend for, folks, okay? A huge thank you to Streetside. Look, if you're not going for the hot dogs, that's fine. They have delicious beers. They've got great beers available in stores all around the tri-state area. They have a really great venue that you could check out if you go to Streetside's Wild Weenie Eating Open 2025. All the hot dogs you can eat in 10 minutes. I just can't get over this. This is well done, okay? This is well done. Register now. It's on their website. You can go find it. Huge thank you to Streetside for sponsoring this episode. And on this episode, oh baby, 3 parts. Part 1, it's a preview. It's a look ahead at the Chicago Fire match. That's right. We start off with soccer. Imagine that. The Thursday episode starting off with soccer. Who saw it coming? Not me. Okay. Then in part 2, it's the Cincinnati Enquirer's newest addition to their news desk. It's Kamran Nia. That's right. Covering FC Cincinnati. We talked to him before he finally gets a chance to watch this team in person and attend a match and cover a match in person. Kamran's a great conversation. We've really enjoyed his work there at the Enquirer. And we wrap it all up in part 3 with listener questions. It gets a little off the rails there. I think you will enjoy it. You put it all together. You got yourselves a very out of sorts postcast. Joining me to talk about all of that and more, I am joined by the one and only Chief. Chief, how does this Wednesday find you?
It's there. Excited we have a home game. And I'm trying to figure out how to phrase everything because we have recorded so much out of order between this and the World's Game.
Yes.
I'm not certain at what point Grayson joins the episode. I'm trying to mentally orient myself as to where we are in the show.
Yeah.
And I'm finding it to be quite difficult at this point.
What's crazy is, yes, I completely co-sign that. We've got 2 episodes we are recording tonight. We are recording this the most out of order we have ever done this. It does feel, I think, a little bit like a Quentin Tarantino movie, but yeah. I was just thinking, this is literally how they make movies, which seems insane. Yeah. That you just record based on, or you shoot and you record based on availability and the set availability and whatever else. It just blows my mind that it can all come together and look cohesive.
It reminds me of something that I saw online the other day that it addressed an issue of, if you've ever watched television, especially sitcoms from the 90s, early 2000s, you will see an inordinate number of people that are eating Chinese food on shows.
Mm.
And out of the stereotypical carton of Chinese food that like really only seems to be served on television,
Right.
that like box. And the reason why is that because they shoot all this stuff out of order, it is so easy to keep continuity between scenes because the box hides exactly how much food is in there. And if you had anything else, if you shot like a scene over the course of a couple of days, you would somehow have to track exactly how much of the meal they had eaten for each scene. And like the burger would have to have a consistent number of bites taken out of it.
Yep.
Or the number of pizza slices would need to maintain consistent. But if you just have the carton of Chinese food, the opaque carton with some chopsticks hanging out, you can just keep throwing that in scene after scene and they can eat and it will just magically always have more Chinese food in it.
Right. You just need a couple of noodles to be able to pull out and you'll pull the trick off. I was thinking too that reminds me of a similar concept, which is the always like wildly different weight a coffee cup seems to have in a movie or a TV show, that like sometimes it is so obvious that there is nothing in this fake, paper cup that they were just handed. And other times it does genuinely look and feel like they are holding a hot beverage.
Yeah. It's the miracle of editing and the miracle of acting is that you've got to somehow make it seem like everything is the same, despite the fact that a shoot might take weeks or even months on a movie. And doing it this way with the show, I can't keep track of a single or 2 episodes of a podcast no one listens to. I would be a miserable failure as a Hollywood director. So I guess the answer is just to be like Tarantino. It's like, the hell with it. Every scene goes in the order I shot it. We'll figure it out. Like you'll figure it out watching it.
I kind of like that. So I'm sure I've talked about it before on the podcast because it is certainly an obsession of mine. But in video games in particular, there's the concept of immersive storytelling, that you're just in a world. It is not spoon feeding you a narrative. You do not necessarily have a beginning, middle, end. You just sort of uncover the story as you interact with it. I would honestly love to try to do that in podcast audio format of just like, here's 25 episodes. They're random. They might even exist on like different feeds and different things. And you kind of have to enjoy it at your own pace in whatever order you want. And you will sort of come away with a story as you encounter all of it eventually.
It sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, well, this is why like a paid professional should do this with like real sponsorship dollars.
It's like the old it's like someone else should do that. I would be a consumer of that content. I would not be a creator of that content.
Let me tell you, if I ever won the lottery, I forget what the meme phrase is. Like, I wouldn't tell anybody, but there would be signs.
There would be signs, yeah.
I have in my mind the perfect Netflix adaptation of Metal Gear Solid. It's very important that it has to be Netflix.
The sad thing is we're probably about like 2 years away from you just being able to pop the old disc into your computer and just uploading it to ChatGPT or Gemini and saying, make this into a movie. We're close.
Yeah. And I do want to say, I am in the abstract, sort of against movie adaptations of films, and generally think that adaptations
adaptations of films
or movie adaptations of video games. Excuse me. But I hate adaptations in general. But I would make an exception for Metal Gear Solid because I think the story is good enough to reach a wider audience. It's also been a long enough time.
How would you replicate the part where you have to plug the controller into number 2?
This is why Netflix is important. Okay, so if
I'm happy and sad I asked at the same time, so hit me with this.
So if people are not familiar, and I would expect most people are not.
Spoiler alert.
Yes, a little spoiler from a game that came out in 1998?
97, I want to say. Yeah, right.
That comes out only on the PlayStation 1, and I'm not entirely sure if it's possible to play it now.
Sephiroth also kills Aerith.
Yeah. Yes. You should know about that. Okay. So in the game, it's hard to explain, but you're a mercenary who's going into as like a lone wolf mission, James Bondish. You got to stop these terrorists who have taken over a nuclear weapons testing facility in Alaska. But as you get in there, some of the sort of sub commanders within this terrorist organization are like the products of genetic enhancements and experiments, and they've got all sorts of like weird messed up baggage that comes with that. One of the characters you fight is a character that goes by the codename Psycho Mantis, and his whole thing is that he has telekinetic and psychic powers, and as you are fighting him, you cannot hurt him because he can predict your move, and he literally just dodges out of the way of any time you try to shoot at him, and throughout the battle he is like flinging furniture at you. It's a giant pain in the butt. Now, before the battle, he does a very fun thing where he decides to read the character's mind. But what he's actually doing is breaking the fourth wall, and he reads the player's mind, because the game then accesses your memory card on the PlayStation, and he starts commenting on the games you have played elsewhere in the PlayStation universe.
This is an explain it to our younger audience moment. A memory card was something that you inserted into a video game system back in the day before hard drives were standard, and you would actually have to buy a chip that you would plug into the console that you would use to save your game on. And it only had 16 slots on it. So once you ran out of memory card slots, you would actually have to delete save game data to start a new game. Kevin, continue.
Yes. God, my condolences for the many families that never got memory cards and had to try to beat these games in one run or leave their games on for days, if not weeks at a time. Okay, so Psycho Mantis would read the memory card. So take it back to the Netflix adaptation. It's Netflix, baby. Chief is holding up a PlayStation memory card right now. I don't know how this just happened. That was impressive. Oh, there's a PlayStation 2 right next to him. I'm loving this.
Kick it old school, baby.
But okay, so for the Netflix adaptation, hopefully people see where I'm going with this. Psycho Mantis would read whoever is watching it recently watched queue in Netflix and would have commentary about things that you recently watched. And I think that would be incredible. You can see
a lot of relationships ending if it reads your browser history too.
or this is the other thing Psycho Mantis did. It would comment on your play style, like how often you saved, and he would, tease you or razz you for, being overly cautious or very risky by not saving often. Yeah, it could be, hey, you don't have any browser history. What do you hide?
Yeah, right.
So that's part of this.
X, what does that mean?
It's either you've gone to X the Everything app or something else.
You've gone to a different type of everything app.
So there you go, Chief. That was a long-winded.
No, I would be a consumer of this television show.
Thank you.
Also, like, go back and play Metal Gear Solid. It's just an incredible game. Like, everybody, it's one of those ones where like you lose status as a ball knower, no matter how old you are, if you didn't play this game. Also, on the subject of memory cards, real ones, remember, a Dynasty in NCAA football for the PlayStation took an entire damn card up.
Yes. Even up to the GameCube era, the game cartridges or the memory cards were a thing. And I remember this being so cool. The original Animal Crossing came with a full memory card because it too took an entire memory card to make the game work.
It's the struggle used to be real. The struggle used to be really real. I'm actually curious. I have to boot this card up. I recently got my PlayStation 2 out of the closet because I'm going to start, instead of playing games I've bought, I'm going to play games that I've, beaten 1,000 times over again because I'm just nostalgic. I'm curious if there's actually if there's any actual data saved on this. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna find like Grand Theft Auto files and shit like that.
Man,
Lord.
go way back. I loved renting games from Blockbuster and seeing what saved files were out there. And sometimes you get lucky and somebody was already like near the end game. You could kind of experience that before you got a chance.
We'll do a full nostalgia episode, and we'll talk about the pain of renting Star Tropics back in the day and not getting the manual. Real ones remember. Kevin, we got a match this weekend.
We sure do.
Yeah, we could talk about video games all night, but you know what? Not going to do that because, you know, I think Grayson would want to be here for this conversation.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
That's not at all a good point. What do we got? The Chicago Fire this weekend?
We have the Chicago Fire this weekend. Greg Berhalter's Chicago Fire, a team that is vastly improved than we've seen them in some time. They have been honestly, I think we broke the Chicago Fire. And by we, I mean FC Cincinnati in 2017. That penalty shootout, if you go back and look at how their season went in 2017, they were cruising way,
still finished third that year, if I remember correctly.
I think so.
They were in line, like at that time, they were like in the race for the Supporters Shield.
That's what it was.
We played them. Yeah.
And they fell off. And after that, I don't know that they made it back to the playoffs.
I don't believe they have, actually. I think the best they finished is 10th since then. which is it's bananas to stay that bad in this league this long. Like it's we listened to the World's Gam. We talked with a writer from Toronto Republic, one of the outlets that covers them. That's like a stern warning of like the future for Toronto if they don't get this rebuild right.
Yeah. And what's funny is Chicago, their first season won the Open Cup. Like they came out of the gates hot in MLS, and they have a handful of trophies in their history. But yeah, ever since 2017, we're going on a near decade of just absolute ineptitude. But this year, currently in 8th place, 1 point out of 6th. I mean,
and like playing better lately too. Like their run of form has gotten better in, I would say, like the last 2 months. Like they're putting it together now, and that's kind of not great for the Eastern Conference because number one, Berhalter can manage in this league like that. It was only a matter of time. And but I mean, same thing can be said for Caleb Porter, and he's kind of got New England finally turned around. And the problem is that this is a team that should be so much better than it is. It has the resources of the Chicagoland area. They're going to build a new stadium. You do not want, as an FC Cincinnati fan, Chicago figuring things out. That just seems like that will be bad for everyone involved.
Yeah. For Columbus as well. It's like the Midwest has gotten a little bit of bump, I think, from Chicago being as poor as they have been. But yeah, if they figure things out, that's going to be like a draw for talent. And, if facilities look good as well, that could pose a problem just existentially for this club. However, I think it would also be nice to have another nearby, I don't want to say rival, but like good match to go to, which right now, like a match in Chicago Soldier Field, not great.
No, it's like I'm not going to drive all that way to go watch a game in an NFL stadium. Chicago's roster, it's funny. We played them earlier this year, I think, right? We won, I want to say.
It feels right, yeah.
Yeah, it feels right. Quick, somebody fact check me on that.
Head-to-head, we beat them in April 19th. We beat them 3-2.
There we go. Roster is really good. Like Jonathan Bamba and Hugo Kuipers.
Yeah.
Just talents. Bamba, I think, like he's a recent addition, I think. I think they brought him in this year, or he hasn't been with them more than like a year or so. And he
came in January this year.
He is faster than a hiccup, and him starting to link up with Kuipers is kind of a scary thing. There's also a lot of, hey, it's that guy on this team. Yeah. Andrew Gutman on this team.
Love that.
Kellen Acosta. Remember Kellen Acosta
Oh, yeah.
on this team? Omar Gonzalez, 36 years old, still holding it down.
No way.
Yeah.
Tom Barlow, if people remember him, he causes some heartburn for the New York Red Bulls. So
yeah. So like there's a strong hey, it's that guy factor with this team too. I don't like this team's playing well. This bothers me, and this feels a little trappy, this game, and I don't love that feeling.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other piece of this too, is July kicks off a tough run for FC Cincinnati. Like, I would not like the team to do this, but I could absolutely see them looking ahead a little bit here. I mean, after Chicago, it is Columbus, Miami, Diego Luna's Salt Lake City, Miami, and Monterrey.
Yeesh.
Like, I think we all hope and fully expect this team to do well in the season and even through this stretch. But it's not impossible to see them following up a perfect June with a winless July.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't love that. I don't love that at all. I also don't love the fact that this Chicago team, the same DC United team that we lost to 2-1, they beat like 8-0 or something like that earlier a month
7-1. Not to instantly fact check you, but yeah, I was keeping an eye on that one.
They beat the ever living snot out of them. I do remember that.
I think this is a funny thing about Chicago. I think this is the first team in MLS history to win a game scoring 7 goals and lose a game having 7 goals scored against them. On April 26th, actually, it was the next game after our game, they lost to Nashville 7-2. It was an absolute beatdown, and why Sam Surridge is doing so well in the various Golden Boot races and goals plus assist races.
I think Chicago might also be the current clubhouse leader. It's got to be either them or San Jose in the, just throw this on category, where the throw this on categories where you add up, instead of goal differential, you go with goal total,
yes,
where it's goals against plus goals scored. And it's just like whatever the highest number is, that's just there's some shit going down whenever this team plays. And I think Chicago is currently leading that metric. If they're not leading, they're not worse than second or third behind San Jose.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, they score a lot of goals, they give up a lot of goals.
They give up a lot of goals. Yeah.
That's always great.
Back of the napkin math, San Jose is 32 in the stuff's going down ranking. Chicago is also 32 in the stuff going down
ranking.
Look
at that, Chief.
How about that? How about that?
Now,
so you're going to get your money's worth in this game one way or another, I think.
Now, there is a little bit of scheduling glimmer of hope for FC Cincinnati. I know it's been a while since anybody has had to care about it from the FC Cincinnati world. However, the Open Cup is still going on. Chicago is still in it. Their next game is July 8th. That is 3 days after ours. They are in the quarterfinals.
So the go for it territory here.
So I could potentially see some rotation or some minutes caps for players, because they will have to go on the road to Minnesota, which is no, easy walk in the park there. And the Open Cup, their ownership has said in the past, like I mentioned before, they want it their first season. They find it important. I want to say last year or the year before, they rotated against us in order to prioritize the Open Cup. So it's something that they absolutely have done before. It's a brand new regime in charge. However, I wouldn't be surprised if there were a couple of head-scratching decisions from the lineup perspective, because they have the Open Cup in mind.
Well, we're on a full week's rest. That's kind of a nice change of pace here from last week. It looked like everybody was available for training this week, other than, did we see Kubo out, or was Kubo still?
I don't remember. Man, this is bad because the post Damon Gumbert was
Gumbert was
there
actually at training. Right.
This is the problem when it's not one of us.
Right. Yeah, no, where it's like, Damon, tell us what happened quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
he said no Yakuba or Matt Miazga outside today. So
okay.
So this could be interesting.
Yeah. How do we feel about this one?
2-1, the FC?
That feels right. I mean, we did 3-2 there. I could honestly see it being 3-2 again. I think our defense plays better. And I mean, we should also mention here very quickly, Chief, that there was a players only meeting that we learned about via Carter today in the sort of mid-season, off-season. As college football fans, I think you'd agree with me. That's usually a death sentence for whatever's going on.
I mean, it depends if the players only meeting, if they bury a football, or a soccer ball, as it were,
yes.
that, or if, there's something where it's like we set something on fire.
Yes,
to
that's always good.
Get some metaphor or some coach nonsense. Then I think it's going nowhere. But if it's just hey, we need to refocus a little bit. It's not. They do this in baseball all the time, and it tends to turn out okay.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't know. Have we heard any updates on Obi?
No, and that alone is probably not a good sign. No. I feel like they'd be really quick to say, hey, he's doing great. Look at him. He's running around again.
Laceration situation?
Get ready to learn Brian Anunga, I think.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I'll stick with 2-1. Kevin, what you got?
I will go 2-0 for the FC. I think everything else going on, I think the defense holds. I think Roman holds. I think they rotate enough of their firepower to allow Evander and Denke to do the work that they need to do to get the win. And that's enough for us.
Yeah. I'll take it.
Yeah.
No matter what you need to do, get the dub. And then we can focus on other pieces of existential dread and existential crisis coming up in the near future.
And for part 2, joining us is FC Cincinnati writer Kamran Nia. It's a great conversation. We talk all things the FC. I really hope you enjoy it. Really enjoyed being a part of this.
Joining us here in part 2, a very special guest. You've read his work in the Enquirer, and now you get to hear his words in your ears. We are joined by the Enquirer's probably newest edition, Kamran Nia. Kamran, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, guys. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, probably one of the newer editions. Definitely the newest edition here on the sports desk, but happy to be here in Cincinnati and covering the team. So thanks for bringing me on, guys.
Yeah. Is there any sort of hazing tradition that they put you through? Does Jason Williams direct you to the 9th green at 9:00 or something like that?
Yeah, straight to the basement. I think obviously everyone's been super nice. I think that's something that I've loved about Cincinnati so far. It's just feels like everyone here is super welcoming and great. So, maybe some hazing down the line, but nothing just yet.
I think in general, you're good. Cincinnati does well with the sort of Midwestern nice stereotype.
Right.
I will warn you, though, the moment you become associated with Cincinnati sports and then express some sort of fandom for not Cincinnati, you're going to get some grief. I just be prepared for that. Okay.
I'll definitely keep my eye out. I think I've already seen it a little bit on X or Twitter, whatever you call it.
It's the everything app. It's all happening on X.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Kamran. Where do you come from? Because I'm picking up that you're not from here in Cincinnati. So where is it that you hail from?
Yeah, so I grew up in LA. I think some people tell me I have an accent. Some people say they don't hear it. I don't know what you guys think. But I grew up there. I was there for most of my life. Obviously started journalism wise there. Covered Angel City for a good 2.5 years, which, for people who are not familiar, that's the NWSL team in LA, which is the Women's Soccer League. They started up about 4 years ago. They were really popular right out of the gates, getting 20,000 people through the doors every game, kind of taking a different, approach with celebrity ownerships and really focusing on the marketing side. So I covered them from the start of their second year for about 2.5 years. That was a lot of fun. Whenever, the women's national team, men's national team would come by, do a little bit of that as well. So that was always a blast. Covered the Galaxy for a little bit of last year, when they were still good. Through into that, MLS Cup, which was really cool as well. A little bit of LAFC here and there. So soccer's been my thing, journalism wise. Went to Chicago to go to school there. And then now I'm in Cincinnati, kind of covering the FC Cincinnati beat. I've been here for about 2 weeks now. So still settling in, but, it's been a blast. Everyone here, like I was telling you guys before, it's been, really nice. The training facilities are awesome. Obviously being out there a lot for interviews and pregame press conferences and whatnot. So that's been great. Went out to TQL Stadium during the Club World Cup, and then the women's national team game was here. That was a lot of fun as well, just kind of seeing the passion. It was really hot. So obviously attendance was a little shot there, but, it was a blast to see that for sure. So yeah, excited to be here and excited to be reporting on this beat.
Yeah, you asked about the accent. I didn't hear you say Sabra once, so I don't hear any LA accent at all. So
just wait until you hear like a yeah, no, and then we'll be.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, it is funny that you've been here for a little bit now. You've been able to cover a couple of games, and yet you have yet to cover a home match. How excited are you to be back there out on the beat to actually get a chance to see this team up close and personal in a match setting? It's been some time since any of us have seen them.
No, I know. Obviously, I came in for these last 3 games. Have been on the road, pretty slow June, but 3 wins. So maybe a little bit of credit.
Get good luck right here. I like
this.
Whoa,
I like that. Take the credit.
But
the Carmen bump here. I like this.
It was nice to get out to TQL a couple times for the Club World Cup. It was like my first weekend in, so just kind of bought a ticket and went, checked out the stadium. Women's national team game, covered that, saw the press box, saw the facilities. Everything was awesome. But I'm excited to see FC Cincinnati. Obviously, I've heard a lot, seen a lot, about the crowd, supporters. And after the Chicago game, which should be great, you jump straight into Hell is Real, Inter Miami 4 days later. And just a gauntlet, down the stretch. So I'm excited for that. It's kind of the perfect time to jump in. Obviously, it seems like the team's turned a corner here a little bit. Obviously dealing with injuries and new players, had some holdouts before the season. So kind of getting all that, meshed together. I'm excited to see kind of how they fare against the probably harder part of their schedule down the stretch. And, obviously a lot of that's coming at home, some Leagues Cup, which should be fun. But I'm excited, and it should be a lot of fun for sure.
And so it's interesting that you sort of are jumping into this beat midway through the season. As a person that's going to be charged with covering this team and who is now covering this team, what sort of work do you have to do if you're going to be joining a beat midway through the season, as opposed to having that traditional buildup of being around for the off season, being around for the preseason, and having all of that runway to learn more about the team you're covering and get to know what it is that the narratives and the storylines are going to be throughout the season?
Yeah, definitely. No, it's definitely a challenge coming in kind of halfway through. I think one thing I was fortunate with being on on the previous beat that I was on with Angel City for multiple years was, like you said, kind of starting in the preseason, getting to know everything that was going on, hearing every word that the coach said, all the players said, through into the season, doing your own reporting and whatnot. So yeah, coming into the season was definitely tough. Luckily, I knew that I was going to be coming in at this point kind of months in advance.
Nice.
So I've been following the team, kind of watching what they post online as far as, post-game press conferences, different reporting that other people have done on the team, various interviews and whatnot. So I think that helped a lot. And I think that's, a lot of the bulk of the work that I did before coming here was just doing my best to watch, as many games as I can, if not read about it and, listen to what people are saying about it, hear what Coach Pat Noonan's been saying. So I think that's helped a lot. And then, obviously, since coming here, we have a couple of other writers who've, handled the beat. So kind of talking to them to, hear what they've kind of learned from the pulse of the beat. Obviously talking to other people in the community, meeting people around has, also been helpful. And yeah, so I think that's a lot of the work that goes into it. And I think another thing, obviously, that's really important in journalism is just researching, right? Like, a ton of information is out there online. Obviously Carter works for the team, but he publishes some good stuff. And I think for a team reporter, like, he has a good amount of independence, as far as what he's tweeting from the training grounds and stuff like that. So kind of following a bunch of Cincinnati, FC Cincinnati accounts, kind of turning on their notifications in January has helped a lot.
Oh, God bless you.
Obviously, there's a lot on there for sure, but
it sure is.
Nothing I'm not used to. So yeah, it's been good. And I think now 2 weeks in, like, I've definitely started to get a sense of kind of how everything goes, when things happen, what people are like, to some degree, and it'll be good to see them at home finally. And yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I always find it interesting with certainly the sports desk, nature of a newspaper, where you have people who are absolute consummate professionals who are, working their beats and covering the teams that they've been assigned.
Yeah.
But also you're at the mercy of what is being assigned to you. And it's very possible that you're more of a baseball guy or more of a football guy. You may end up covering a different beat. I'm curious sort of where your, not necessarily sports fandom is, but sort of like what's your experience as a sports consumer, if I should call it that. I don't want to call you a fan because I don't want to, mess up your journalistic integrity.
In the press box, everybody knows this.
I'm curious how you consumed sports before this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, the beauty of growing up in LA was I was kind of exposed to everything. Like, my dad was a big, like, LA sports, Lakers, Dodgers, whatever, Kings, everything. So I kind of grew up with my hand in, like, a million pots in a way, which is awesome. But then also, like, your knowledge of any specific league is kind of, not as good as, the one person who only follows that league and reads every single thing about it. But I think I generally try to follow everything. I think I've kind of clung to soccer in the last 3 or 4 years. Just kind of being in LA and seeing the opportunity to cover Angel City. And, they're one of those teams that trains really far away from where they play, and which means there's not a lot of media at their training. So I was one of those guys who could kind of get out there and really get the pulse of the team and give that coverage that wasn't really there. And that's something I like to do. And I think that also helps access wise. So I really like that, but fandom wise, I really watch everything. Like, I don't know, like this morning I woke up, I watched Wimbledon, went to the gym, did a little bit of work, came back, watched some of the women's Euros, made dinner, and then have been watching the men's national team game the last couple of hours. So kind of everywhere. I'd say the only thing I don't really watch is like IndyCar or NASCAR, though I have tuned into a few races here and there.
You don't have to apologize for that.
Yeah, that's fine. That's a very fair take.
But yeah, I'd say kind of my biggest few are basketball. The NBA is one of my favorite leagues. It's not something I've ever covered before, but it's something I really do enjoy. Soccer, obviously, have loved that. I think those two are big. And then I do like baseball, but it's also something I haven't really covered before. But yeah, I think soccer and basketball are kind of the main two for me, for sure.
And so what's the draw of soccer to you? What is it about covering soccer that you find enjoyable or that you enjoy writing about?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is the global appeal of it. I think a lot of the times a sport might feel big to you somewhere, and then you go somewhere completely different and it's like no one cares at all. I think that's one of baseball's biggest problems is how regional it is. And I think, like the Reds are massive in Cincinnati, and, outside of Cincinnati as well. But you go to Los Angeles, no one's talking about the Reds. You go to New York, no one's talking about the Reds. You go to Mexico or Italy or wherever, nobody's talking about the Reds. And yeah, people might not be talking about MLS either. But I think the sport as a whole has global appeal. One thing I loved about the NWSL is you had many of the best players in the world. So you're kind of, one of those top leagues. Women's national team wins at the Olympics. Half of their players or more are from the NWSL. So I love the global appeal of that. Obviously, MLS still has a ways to go. They love their parity and whatnot. So kind of balancing that with, getting more TPs and different rules and whatnot. But I think the global appeal of it's amazing. Every time you get a signing internationally, he's coming from a different league or a different place, and he has fans different places. FC Cincinnati, even, they have a bunch of players from different countries, Argentina, Brazil, whatever. So I think the global appeal of it, the diversity in the fan bases is something that I think is really awesome. And it was embraced in a lot of places in the US, especially in LA. I thought that was really awesome. So I think that's what's really drawn me to it. I think on the field, I like it because of how interesting it is tactically. I mean, I'm not always the guy who's breaking down the tactics, as much as some other people, but I still like to look at it. And I think it's really interesting kind of looking at different styles and how people play. It's really unique and something that's not really, grabbed onto super easily, which I think is a little different than other sports.
Yeah, you don't have to sell me on the global aspect of soccer. You're talking to someone that went viral on South African Twitter during the Club World Cup.
The Sundowns.
Yeah, Sundowns. The sky's the limit, baby.
I love that Chiefs Sundowns fandom has extended all the way to the Enquirers. Oh, I love this.
Well, I've been seeing it. I was at that game at the Club World Cup, admiring the Sundowns myself. So definitely share a little bit of that, fandom there. No, they were great to watch, honestly. I think I texted one of my friends, 8 minutes into the game when they were up, and I was like, wow, this team's really good. And I didn't know much about them before because it's not one of those leagues that you really pay attention to in the US. So I thought that's another thing that I love about the Club World Cup. And you see managers overseas saying, oh, like, we got to get rid of this tournament. This tournament's the worst thing ever. If I do anything else, like, it'll be getting rid of the tournament. And I understand, you play 1 billion games nowadays in soccer, but I think competing continent to continent, like, that really can't be defeated. And I think that's one of the reasons that the World Cup is so popular, obviously, because it's nation versus nation. And I think this has a little bit of that aspect, while tying in that club. So I've loved it. And shout out to the Sundowns for sure.
That's absolutely right.
Could
Love
not
that.
agree more.
Love that.
I will say too, like, one of my favorite things about being an FC Cincinnati fan, or really you do this with any soccer team you may pick up on, is sort of tracking what I think of as like the alumni network of the former players and where they end up. And it's always funny when, like, I'll go tune into like a USL game and be like, oh my God, like, this guy's still playing. This is great. Like, he was on our team for, a cup of coffee in 2018. This is awesome. So I fully love the international aspect of this, and the fact that, like, Cincinnati is able to be, like, relevant in sort of random countries because a player from that country signed here.
Definitely. The question I have to pivot to Cincinnati is, you come in 2 weeks ago to start watching and start covering. You've been watching this team previously to start covering this team. As someone coming into this from the outside, not like part of the fan base, not, into this culture right here, where do you see where this FC Cincinnati team is at currently? And how do you evaluate its position right now relative to the rest of its competition in the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, no, I think if you asked me this question 3 weeks ago, I might have given you a different response, but
Same.
kind
Ditto.
of looking at the team now, and I think a lot of the fans were especially down on them 3 weeks ago. Like I maybe would not have been, at that same level, but I think, looking at the team now, I think they're, really well positioned. Obviously, they have one of the better general managers in the league. Coach Pat Noonan's, great as well. And I think the roster as it is this year, I think what we saw a lot, like I said earlier, kind of coming into the beginning of the season, you have some holdouts, deal with some injuries kind of early on in the season, kind of getting things figured out. Like I think for Orishano coming in, without really much of a preseason there, kind of it takes time to get acquitted, and it was good for him to get his first goal. But and then I think, like injuries within the back line made it really tough to play the system that Pat Noonan really wanted to play. So I think that was something that was tough. But I think when you look at this month of June with Miles Robinson, with the national team, I think they figured a lot of things out in the back line. Obviously, Miazga is kind of getting up to speed now, 3 full 90 minutes. Obviously not 2023 Miazga, but still a quality player back there. So I think this team has a lot of potential. The supporter shield's always hard because of how consistently great you have to be, which is what makes it so impressive. But I think this team's definitely in the running for it. Obviously San Diego has been good, but people always have their doubts about kind of early franchises and whatnot. But I think, the East is really tough. And I think FC Cincinnati has a really tough schedule ahead. But I think the momentum that they're going to take off the back of that month of June is really big for them. And the formula really seems to be defend well and then, hope Evander or, Kevin Denke produce some magic. Like I think last week, Evander, only had 0.9 XG and he scored 4 goals, which is something like people will be like, oh, that's lucky. But also he's a really good player and he's the type of player who will score from low XG opportunities. And, obviously his free kick ability is amazing. So I think as long as they can, stay consistent back there, obviously they've leaked a couple late in games and whatnot. But I think once you get Miles Robinson back, Miazga continues to improve. Obviously Hagelin's been injured as well. I think once you get a little bit more health back there, which, FC Cincinnati, you never know. Like, it feels like every week there's a new injury. But I think once you get that back line short up, that'll be good for them. And then obviously, like I said, those 2 superstars up front, like you rely on them to produce a goal or 2. You have a 1 or 2 goal lead. And then you kind of just hold it all the way. I think that's their recipe for success and it's worked. And I think they definitely have a chance to compete for the Supporters Shield and, even that MLS Cup. I don't know if they're the favorites right now, but I think they're definitely up there. And I think they have a lot of momentum going for them for sure.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So before we get you out of here, I know Chief's got another question for you.
Go ahead.
Well, actually, Chief, you ask yours because I've got a mean one at the end.
No, it's all right. No, I was going to ask that. That's about FC Cincinnati, the team.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Cincinnati, the city.
Ooh,
You've been here for 2 weeks. What has been your favorite thing about the city so far that you've been able to enjoy in this extended break from actually having to attend FC Cincinnati matches in person?
Yeah, I think obviously only being here 2 weeks, I've tried a few things, but I think number one, it's got to be Jungle Gyms.
Nice.
It was one of the more unique things I've done / seen. Kind of walking in, seeing like the trainer or whatever they got up top, the bugs that they have to eat. I tried a cricket, which was terrible. Do not recommend. But I thought that was really cool. I've become a huge fan of Skyline Chili.
Ooh,
really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know
How
that's
many
the question.
times did you have to try it before you were bought in?
The first time I was sold.
Wow.
Which, I mean, I haven't had any other chili since coming here. So maybe if you guys have any recommendations for better chili, I'm there. But it's not really something I've had a lot of, before, maybe a few times. And it kind of fits in the alley of foods that I like. So that was cool. And then I think the last thing, the Finlay Market was cool. Obviously checking that out. I know that's one of the big draws or whatever. Saw that before going to the Club World Cup game. it was a nice little day, kind of in over the Rhine, hit the market, then
Yeah.
the Club World Cup and come home. So that was cool. But I think Jungle Gyms definitely takes the list for me.
I love that answer. That's a really good answer. Now, as far as chili recommendations, the honest answer is you really can't go wrong. They're all going to be fun. They're all going to be unique.
That's good.
I will say one that is near and dear to my heart. Well, obviously with the Post, you got to go to Gold Star. All right, that's like
Not until they re-up the sponsorship. They didn't do a damn thing until they re-up the sponsor dollars. No free ads. Come on.
They're in the cinematic universe, but in the spirit of no free ads, I highly recommend Camp Washington Chili. You may not ever get to that neighborhood if not for Camp Washington Chili. Although I can vouch for the Sign Museum. I used to work there. They got a cool thing going on there. But Camp Washington Chili is a good experience, especially if it's very late at night. They are 24/6. They close on Sundays, but otherwise they're 24 hours.
It is the Midwest after all.
Also keep an eye. They take a 2-week break where like all of the ownership goes back to Greece and they give all of their employees a paid vacation. That usually happens sometime in early July. So they might not be open for 2 weeks, but if they're open, go check them out.
I'll have to do that. Yeah. And Gold Star, yeah, that's one I've heard about. Next time I walk in there, I'll definitely tell them re-up your sponsorship.
Thank you. That would help.
Yeah. This guy's going places in journalism. I like this.
Ask the hard questions.
I know, right?
Kamra, that is great. And I look forward to sort of tracking your exploration of the city, which is, I think could be something to follow you for in and of itself. But I've got to put you on the spot. You are now covering FC Cincinnati. You have immersed yourself from January. There are 18 points available in the month of July for this team. I'm going to include the Leagues Cup match there on July 31st. How many points does FC Cincinnati take out of 18 possible in the month of July?
Okay, interesting. And I think this is going to be a huge month for them, supporter shield wise. Yeah. Obviously, you need it. You have momentum. You play some of these at home, the bigger ones at home. So I think it's a really important month for them. I mean, every month's important in MLS, but especially this one, it feels like everything's really heating up. They're not really fully healthy right now, but they were starting to get healthy and then got a couple of knocks. But then hopefully Miles Robinson will come back soon from the men's national team.
Allegedly.
And then I know there's a lot of frustration there. But hopefully some of these guys who picked up a couple knocks during that 2-game week will be ready to go. And then obviously after Chicago, you should get Miles Robinson back. At some point after that, he hasn't played in any of the games. So, hopefully he will be back pretty soon for them. I think they take 3 against Chicago.
Okay.
4 out of 6 with Miami and Columbus.
Okay.
So that's 7.
Then it's on the road to Salt Lake, on the road to Miami, and then Monterey, which I think is here.
Cup. I think out of those 3, you get 6.
Okay. I like that.
RSL's not great. Some talented players. And then just kind of thinking out of those 3, I think you probably lose 1 or maybe you draw 2 or something. So you're going to be in that 5 to 7 point range. So whatever that adds up to, 7.
I think it's
11-ish.
What did you say? 7, 8, 9, 10,
total?
11, 12, 13. Yeah, you're somewhere around 12 to 13 points. I like that. I
think strong month for them. I think, like I said, they have a lot of momentum, and I don't know. I think that should put them in a pretty good spot, supporter shield wise, down the stretch. I don't know if that's too high or low, but I think somewhere around 10 or 11 points, out of those points for sure.
Yeah. Well, Kamran, this has been great. Really appreciate the conversation. If folks would like to read your work, support your work, where should they go?
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously go on to the Enquirer's website, FC Cincinnati, most of my stuff's going to be there. Obviously I'm active on X as well, tweeting on match day, pregame press conferences, whatever. It's my name, KAMRAN_NIA, N as in Nancy, not M as in Mary.
We don't use that N word on this podcast. He's the devil. You said Nancy, not Nancy. Right. I guess that's okay.
That's true. That's true.
That's right. Different N person.
Yeah.
Not the one affiliated with the team over there.
Oh no, that is great. No, and we'll certainly have links to your work in the episode description here. So yeah, man, thank you so much for joining, and we look forward to reading your work for here on out.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, and we are back, man. Great conversation with Nia. Now, Grace, I really thought you had the opportunity to ask a question, but I appreciate you sort of laying out and letting the conversation flow the way it did.
Yeah, the only question I had in my head is if they still do the Medill F and what he got it in.
The only question that didn't get asked really that I was waiting to ask was, we're going to give you 60 seconds to bash Syracuse. Go.
Right. Not as much Northwestern talk as maybe we could have had, but that was good.
You always leave them wanting more. We always have to have something for the return appearance, I think.
That's true. So yeah, go check out Kamran's work. I appreciate the Enquirer actually having somebody on there that it's something that they're not letting die. I think that's what I'm trying to say. So I very much appreciate that. Now, to wrap us up here with the postcast in part 3, we are going to pay off our debts because people have posted questions from the June Patreon submissions, and it's July and we haven't answered all of them, so we got to get through these and then we can allow more July questions to come in. If you don't know what we're talking about, hey, welcome to your first episode of the postcast. But also, we are supported by the lovely, talented, and very attractive patrons who support us by taking out a voluntary subscription on Patreon, paying $2 a month to help keep the show afloat. It doesn't get you much. You get to ask a question as we will answer some of those. It also gets your name in highlighter pink on the Discord, but it does not necessarily get you access to the Discord. That's free. Again, just giving all this stuff away for free that everybody charges for. So thank you.
Great business savvy on our part.
I love it. And Soccer-Wise charges for Discord access. And guess what? The only people in there, elitist jerks, okay? Our Discord server is by and for and of the people.
Yeah, we cater to the common jerk.
That's really honestly the kind of jerk that I want in my life.
Yeah, some people think that limiting Discords to patrons and paying people serves an important gatekeeping function. Maintains the quality of the discourse high and keeps out, interlopers and people there just to stir up the pot. And they're right, but we make ours free anyway.
Yeah. Look, if the Post were to ever keep out muckrakers and pot stirs, we just have to shut the whole damn thing down. Okay, that's
I dream of a world where we're popular enough for people just decide they want to show up and muckrake in the Discord. I've always wanted a mortal enemy. There's no surer sign you've made it in life than a mortal enemy.
That's a good point. Shoot, who had the quote? It's I don't trust a man who doesn't have any enemies, right? Yeah. That's good. Okay, so with that, questions we've got to answer. James Pooley asks, I read ahead and I love this question. I've done a number of away days, and a quirk of the ticketing system means that Columbus, Nashville, and Chicago all think I'm a fan of their team and have me on their email list. It is very annoying.
I
But
hate this.
he said, Chicago recently asked me to fill out a survey. He says fill in a survey. James is English. Okay, folks, it's a dead giveaway. He held up the wrong number 3. James is English. They asked me to fill in a survey with ideas for their new stadium.
And then he write in it?
He did not write it. It's crazy. He wrote this whole thing with a whole bunch of abbreviations and stuff.
It's like, and then I had to do maths.
I love watching sport and doing maths.
Yeah. I queued up for my ticket.
But he asks, what is the funniest suggestion I could give them that they might take seriously enough to implement? This is a good question. How do you sabotage an opponent's stadium build with a seemingly good idea? Bailey boxes.
Bailey boxes.
That's exactly the answer.
There has to be a list. So there has to be a list somewhere that is probably attainable of like everything that the fans gave negative feedback on with our stadium build. And I would say just consult that list because they're all talking to the same people.
Yes.
Right. And so the question is like, which of the bad ideas get through?
Mm-hmm.
But they're all getting the same bad ideas. I guarantee you. Like Populous is like, we got our list of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure there are no cup holders in the supporter section. That's always good.
Pay toilets.
Unsafe standing.
Unsafe standing. Safe kneeling.
Everyone has like a little platform.
We're not going to mass. We're going to the game here, all right?
Everyone has like a little platform with a gap between the next guy's platform for the supporter section. It's to keep people from like fighting each other, but you also like can't move.
And then you have James just telling everyone to mind the gap.
Yes, yes. I think Bailey boxes is the answer. It would be a little bit annoying though if like it worked the way that they envisioned the Bailey boxes to work, because apparently the old Nippert Bailey design was intimidating and opposing teams hated it. I also think it's because we were playing lower division teams that had never seen a crowd before. But
so I've got an idea that has a bit of an English flavor to it.
Ooh, okay.
So you know how like in in TQL Stadium, the Bailey is like connected to the whole stadium?
Yes.
Well, what if it wasn't?
Ooh.
Okay. What if it was like a separate part of the stadium that like you had a special ticket to get into, and you could access other parts of the stadium from it, but it was just a little more difficult for no reason.
You have to like scan your ticket again. Yeah.
You have to pay like 50 cents to get access to the rest of the stadium. And the entire reason is because like a Polish guy wanted to get in the supporter section.
You could have like a holding cell for anybody who tried to go into the wrong sections. I think that's good.
Right.
A
channel.
A channel's good.
Channel Alcatraz.
What? Seat license. Personal seat license is a great suggestion.
Personal seat license. Yeah, I would.
Yeah, it's PSL season.
Not for another 2 months.
So if people don't know this, and I'm going to guess a lot of Cincinnati fans aren't familiar with the personal seat license concept. Chief, would you mind explaining it to people? Because we've somehow dodged this with all of our various public stadiums.
Yeah, the personal seat license concept, it was big. It was hot in the streets about 25 years ago. I think Atlanta used it to fund the Mercedes-Benz stadium. And but only had to be paid by the Atlanta Falcons fans. I don't think Atlanta United fans had to pay for a PSL for their seats.
And I wonder how much Atlanta United fans understand that they are so lucky to be the second tenant in a stadium with this. But yes, continue.
Yeah, that's the reason why the hot dog is $1.
Charlotte had to pay. Charlotte had to pay them though, right?
Yeah, Charlotte had to pay. I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'm pretty sure they did.
The personal seat license is that you must purchase a license from the team that gives you permission to buy seats from the team. And specifically, the license allows you to buy a season ticket. And without the personal seat license, it's like think of it like the Costco card that gets you in the door to shop at Costco. And it is just usury is all it is.
The one kind of benefit that
there is none. There is none.
I will say allegedly, and I've seen so many instances where they just like do not apply this, is it is supposed to give you the right of first refusal to buying a ticket for your seat for any and all events ever in that stadium. They, however, are free to accept whatever events they want from that caveat. But like the idea is like, sure, you have season tickets for FC Cincinnati, but also when the U.S. men's national team comes to town, you would have first dibs at buying your seat, your specific seat. And then if you didn't want it, it'd go back to the general fund. But as you can imagine, they ignore that all the time.
Bailey boxes is really funny.
Especially if it was called like, Bailey boxes in Chicago.
Like, it's just like we're gonna get like a junior partner at Ball and Gainer to come look at the freaks. It's like you get like the types of people that are in like box seats just like looking up at the Bailey and be like, what is up with these? What is going on here?
It's like the train. It's like the car ride through Jurassic Park. It's like, oh, look at that. There's a wild, vicious creature out the window right there. Get back, dear. He may be rabid.
Again, just to explain the bit a little bit.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Bailey boxes. Imagine if you sort of combined the two sections behind the goals at TQL Stadium into one section. So on the one end, you have the Bailey. On the north end, you have who's the sponsor right now? Centos Lounge or something like that, where it's a covered like glass dugout luxury experience. The idea was to put box seats underneath the Bailey and allow the Bailey to have the overhang like the north end of the stadium at Nippert Stadium. Again, exactly as was just described there, so the rich folks can gawk at the weird supporter culture, and they liked the idea of the elevated supporter section, but terrible idea.
I imagine like it'd be very similar to the experience I had when one time I went out to Joshua Tree, but then decided to like explore like the desert a bit. Went to this area called the Salton Sea.
Yeah.
And there's this little like, I don't know, settlement called like East Jesus out in the middle of the desert. And you can like drive up to it and like ostensibly there's like a library and a coffee shop and stuff. But it's like just a bunch of hippies squatting in the middle of this smelly desert. And you just like kind of drive your car around and you're like, oh yeah, there's people here.
Look at them just living like this.
And like a bunch of signs that like handmade signs that are like, don't come up here. Don't kind of like that.
Knowing the stadium designers that do this dumb shit, they would make the entire Bailey box. They would give it a glass roof with the idea that you could look up and see the supporters above you. Blissfully unaware that it would just allow like upskirts and
yes.
Oh, it would be like a freaking like found footage movie or something.
Yeah.
You just get sweat just like smacking against the
glass.
Oh, the first flagpole to smack the top of that would just end that experience forever. Not that it would break it, just it would be so incredibly annoying to be in the box when that was happening. Man, Bailey boxes. James, that is what you have to do with as much British slang as you can fit in your email back to Chicago. Seth Ransoff. Man, there's always an extra O in Seth's name, and I don't even know how to begin to approach that. If Boca had signed Lucho instead of Velasco, would they have advanced out of the group stage in the FIFA Club World Cup presented by Gianni Infantino?
No,
because Lucho's washed.
Boom,
roasted. Evander is the truth. Got to take back the ghost comment, just a different play style. This is from Cruz. I don't know what this means. Evander, it's all caps, is the truth. Got to take back the ghost comment, just a different play style.
No, probably referring to the fact that, like we were saying, Evander was sometimes invisible on the field.
Got it.
To which I say, yeah, you score goals, I'll shut up.
I will say that our criticisms of Evander before the month of June, perfectly valid. No,
and now our criticisms now are also dumb. Everything we say is dumb, and you listen to it. You listen to it at your own peril. Not my. I disclaim any responsibility for dumb takes.
That is fair. I just think we're fair to react and respond to what's in front of us. Okay,
I'll say this: whether the take is dumb or not, you don't dispel it. So the take is he's a special player who disappears sometimes.
Yes.
Right. You don't dispel that by having a couple of good games.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Entirely consistent. You need to have like a lot of good games.
Yeah. Otherwise, you don't get the first part of the statement, which is he's a special player who disappears. He has to prove from time to time he is a special player.
Right. And he has to not disappear.
Yeah, you got to disprove the disappear bit.
Right. And we have a fun stretch. So let's talk after this Chicago, Columbus, Miami stretch.
Yeah,
and see how the offense looks. See how Evander looks, and I'll be happy to take back the comment. If that makes anybody happy.
No, nothing would make me happier than Evander winning Golden Boot as FC Cincinnati wins the double or the treble, and the content team produces a mean tweets episode of video with Evander just reading back the dumb stuff I said about him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Nothing would make me happier than we win everything that's left to win this year, and then somebody does a cut of all the dumb stuff that we said.
My promise to the FCC content team, I will be a willing participant in any way, shape, or form that you would like to make that happen. I can get you the original audio files of all of the dumb shit we've said. I can help edit that. I would love to be a part of that.
If we win trophies and Evander wins the Golden Boot.
No, regardless, just the dumb things that we've said.
But win some trophies.
Yeah, that'd be good.
That's all.
Not asking for much.
just a handful of trophies. I mean, just
buy a trophy anywhere.
James St. John asks, what a great name. What is your favorite prank you've been a part of? This is good. We got to think about this.
I once pretended to be an Eastern European basketball player in Windsor, Canada, that was visiting the Detroit Pistons ahead of the NBA draft. And my friends would introduce me to people, and I would just make Russian sounding noises, and then they would interpret what I was saying. We got a lot of free drinks.
I was going to say, did you get anything?
We got a lot of free drinks. It was right around the time the Pistons drafted Darko Milicic, so it wasn't such a stretch. We were right across the river in Windsor, so
that is the perfect amount of like exposure to a thing without being experts in it. That's great.
I'm not a big prankster as far as I can recall, but one time in college we were leaving my friend's dorm, and it was at Ohio State. There was a big block O on the wall, on the first floor wall of their dorm. And I was just like messing around, and I walked up to it and I like jiggled it. And I realized like, oh, this can come off the wall. Like this isn't like attached to the wall in any meaningful way. It's just hanging on the wall.
Right.
So we decided to pull it off the wall, put it in my buddy's car, and take it back to our house. And so we did that. We took it, put it in my buddy's car. We took it back to our house. There were a bunch of people hanging out there. And one of my roommates started like hyperventilating because he's like, there's stolen property in the house. we're gonna get in trouble. You have to take it back.
Oh no.
So we walk it out, we put it back in the car, we take it back, and we have a little trouble like hanging it, so we just lean it against the wall
As you do.
and leave. And then I find out from my friend who lived in that dorm that some other guys who lived in the dorm like came back, saw it against the wall, took it, decided to take it up to their dorm room, and they got in trouble for stealing the block O.
That's a bait O, guys. Just leaving bait O's
It is a
around
bait
campus. That's really funny. I have had the opportunity, maybe this isn't surprising, of participating in a handful of pranks in my life. One of them, this is so simple, and it was such a pain in the ass. High school senior prank. This was well organized and executed. This is so stupid. We had assigned parking spots, and there was like a senior parking spot and a like other, underclassmen parking spots somewhere else on the high school campus area. And the plan was everybody who, whether you had a parking spot or not, if you could drive, you were going to bring a car, and we were going to fill up the teacher's parking spot and the senior parking spot, and as much of the underclassmen spot as we could. The idea was just like take up as much space. We're like double parking everywhere. It was such a mess because the way that Turpin High School is arranged, that once you start gumming up the traffic, it starts expanding quickly around the entire east side of Cincinnati. And apparently we got traffic blocked up all the way to Claremont County. So we got a traffic jam to go over county lines. That was great.
My favorite prank that's been done, there have been a few pranks around the FC, and I think there have been some good ones. But my favorite prank, and my God, if I ever see or meet the people who pulled this off, I'm gonna shake their hands. But apparently during an Open Cup game, some folks made a like knockoff Gary mascot. And they called him Opie, had him walk over to the Bailey, and gave the announcer a tip off that this was going to be happening. And the announcer on the broadcast called out and said, "It's Opie. You can tell it's a big game because he came out." And like, imagine like whoever, like my goodness, whoever pulled that off.
Could you imagine?
Could you imagine?
Like tip of the cap, nod of the monocle.
I imagine the people that pulled that off probably had a couple very uncomfortable conversations with members of the front office afterward.
Maybe not. Maybe it was just some, fly by night, noble jesters.
Yeah. It was probably Banksy when you think about it.
Yeah.
Similarly,
Robin Hood and his merry men.
I can't confirm this, but I believe it was the same people who did the sarcastic tifo against Louisville back in 2019. And if people don't know this, there was a tifo raised at the Open Cup game in 2019 against Louisville City that was mostly cloth. Part of it was just plastic sheets, and it was completely unpainted except for the word tifo. Just the lowest possible effort for a thing. The last one I will say just very quickly, I once filled my manager's office, his like cubicle office thing, entirely full of balloons. So that was very funny. That's a classic. Okay, David Ziegler asks, what is the best thing you've ever spent money on? Any price?
Tickets to the Open Cup game versus the Chicago Fire.
You remember when like the ticketing system kept crashing and you had to like wait in line for an hour for it to come back?
No, because I bought during the season ticket holder pre-sale. So skill issue.
Best money.
That might actually be my real answer, actually. Like, no joke.
That's a good answer. This is a dumb answer. Not quite the emotional punch that Chiefs has. A pair of Red Wing Iron Ranger boots. I have forever been happy with those. They've lasted me 15 years now. They're incredible. They're really good boots. I'm a big fan of those boots.
I don't know. My house.
I was gonna say house is always a good answer here.
Like I kind of fell into buying my house. Wasn't really looking at the time, and
anyone under 30 just got really triggered.
Yeah, it came up.
Didn't even try to buy it. It just sort of happened.
Right. Well, yeah, saw it.
I mean, it used to be that way. Sorry,
kind
kids.
Kind of really dug it, and then still there. So I guess that's a good purchase. It was like I was looking for like a condo situation at the time.
Right.
But then I was like, I'll do a condo for a couple of years and then maybe move into like a more permanent place, and then saw this place and I was like, I can move here and just never leave. And I haven't.
That's pretty good. Our last question here to wrap up the June questions is from the Flying Pig Dying Pig, who asks,
be a good name for a podcast.
Oh, that would be. I'm going to lean on you two for this one because I am out of my element here. Who on FCC do you think would be the most successful on Love Island?
I have never seen Love Island, so I'm going to say Kevin Denke.
I have also never seen Love Island.
No, none of us have seen any episode of Love Island.
But just based on the title,
I don't know what it is.
No, I'm just gonna use some context clues here.
Is this the one with the Spanish guy who had to like watch his girlfriend hook up on camera, and then he's like screaming and running down the island?
I mean, she
like
wasn't
ripping his shirt off.
She wasn't hooking. She wasn't hooking up on camera, man. She was nailing the bed into the basement.
Is that Love Island or is that something else?
Probably.
Well, then the answer is clearly Roman Celentano.
Sure. Yeah, I think So what's funny is most successful on Love Island. So I don't think it's a game like, say, Big Brother.
I think that was Temptation Island was because like, I think that's what the one where the girl was just getting.
It was Temptation Island.
So with no context, what do we think successful on Love Island is? Are they winning money? Is it hooking up with as many people as possible?
Montoya, por favor. Tranquilo, Montoya. Tranquilo, Montoya. Montoya, por favor. I got a kick out of that when that happened.
Yeah. The way you win Love Island is just to be drowning in it. And the answer is, again, Roman Celentano. Or, you know who would be the most successful is Dotto. Dotto's got that look about him, like a little bit of a bad boy.
It's his extracurriculars.
Yeah. He's actually on Love Island. And Pat is so pissed he's not around for training.
He's just filming audition tapes for himself to go on reality shows.
Also, it turns out he's referring to himself in the third person, like The Rock, just calling himself the Dotto.
He's like, you need Dotto.
Oh, shoot. I forgot about this. Kimi posted a review of The World's Game with 5 stars, which means Kimi gets to ask a question, which was, how would each pairing of the postcast hosts perform on The Amazing Race? I think this is a very funny question.
I'm the most useless in a situation like that. So I'm going to say that the two of you are going to do better than any pairing of the two of you with me.
Okay. I think I buy it. I do worry about Grayson quitting partway through.
Well,
I might quit.
No, I think the worry with Grayson is he just decided to live somewhere. He's
Right.
like, you know what?
That's
This is
what I
good.
mean by
can
quit.
I can work remote. This seems nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we go through, some part of Eastern Europe and Grayson's like, you know what? Actually,
Yeah,
I'm
so
good.
That's the worry, is that Grayson decides he's good and doesn't do it. The worry with me is that it turns into a Marcus Brody situation where I'm walking around. Does anyone speak English around here?
I like to think of myself as a jack of all trades, but I also think I don't really bring anything to the table specifically. So that could be a problem.
The best television would probably be Grayson and I, just because he would be thoroughly annoyed at having to navigate foreign countries with no one but me.
That's the one I would most want to see for sure.
It's like day one. It's like, all right, well, I'm going to go this way. You go that way. And if you get to the end of the line, call me, whoever gets there first, and I'll find you. If we split up, we have a better chance of success. It's like, I don't think the game works that way, man.
I think somehow you both would approach a task completely different, but arrive at the exact same time. Like just however it worked.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying all along. I wouldn't watch this show and I wouldn't participate in this show. Kevin, before we get out of here, can I make a public service announcement to the people?
You may.
Thank you very much. This goes out to all the listeners of the Post-Cincy, the Cincy Postcast. If you are not aware, there was a recent piece of legislation that was signed by our governor that did a number of things, many of them bad, many of them worse, some of them okay, I'm told. One of the things that it did, though, was provide $600 million of your taxpayer dollars that is going to go directly into the pocket of the Haslams. The Haslams, of course, as you may or may not know, own the Cleveland Browns and the Columbus Crew. It's your money because in order to pay for the Cleveland Browns' new stadium, which we all know will result in the Columbus Crew moving to this indoor facility outside of Cleveland as well. In order to pay for this new stadium, they're raiding what's been called what is known as the unclaimed funds account here in Ohio. The unclaimed funds account is basically a repository of if you are sent money and you don't deposit the check in time, or you have moved and it's sent to an address that is incorrect and they can't find you, instead of just letting the money sit in an account somewhere that they have, they send the money to the state of Ohio, since you're an Ohio resident, and say, hold this for us until someone reaches out to you to claim this. And that could be you were living somewhere and you had a Wells Fargo account and you were part of a class action settlement because they were opening accounts without telling people. It could be money that you were supposed to inherit as part of an estate and they couldn't find you, and it goes to the unclaimed property funds. They are raiding this fund and will be giving it directly to the owners of the Columbus Crew and the Cleveland Browns in order to build their new stadium. It's your money. And what you can do is you can go on to the Ohio Department of Commerce. I'll have Kevin put a link in the description of this podcast.
Yes.
You can click on the search button and you search for your name. And if your name appears as having property in the unclaimed property fund, think of it as a lost and found for money. All you have to do is click a button, put your name in, put your social security number in and your contact information, and they will mail that money to you. And any money that you claim that belongs to you is $1 or 1 penny even less that the Columbus Crew cannot have. So as we approach Hell is Real Week, spread the word to your friends, spread the word to your neighbors. Do not let the Columbus Crew steal your money. Go on, check the Ohio Unclaimed Property Fund, and get what is rightfully yours. And you know why, Kevin?
Oh, why is that, Chief?
Because fuck Columbus.
The Cincy Postcast is a production of The Post-Cincy. You can check us out online at thepostcincy.com. You can also follow us on Twitter and Blue Sky, Facebook, and Instagram. Twitter and Blue Sky, though, you'll find we're a little more active than the other places. We're also on YouTube, where you can listen to this episode if you aren't listening to it already. We are also putting up video content semi-regularly, including the Away Days series. We want to give a huge thank you to Jim Trace and the Makers for providing the music for this episode. They're a lovely band, and you can find more information out about them in the description of this episode. And if you happen to enjoy what you just heard, can I please ask that you like us, that you rate us on whatever app you're listening to, and maybe more importantly than all of that, share this episode with a friend. When it comes up at work, you're talking about FC Cincinnati, I say, hey, I listened to an FC Cincinnati podcast. I think you guys will like it. It would really, really help us out. Nothing helps a podcast travel more than a good recommendation from a friend, family member. That would be awesome. When it comes to the sorting algorithms that control our lives, a 5-star review would be much appreciated. Also, leaving a sort of written review weirdly does more than that. That's how the algorithms work. So maybe say a nice or a mean thing, whatever. Just as long as you give us 5 stars, that'll really, really, really help us out. And if you are looking for more MLS content, check out our other podcast, The World's Gam. Again, a link will be in the description of this episode. That is where we touch on league-wide storylines and news, and we talk about other games and a couple other teams in there as well. I think you will enjoy it if you are just dipping your toes into Major League Soccer. A huge thank you to all of our sponsors. A even bigger thank you to all of our patrons over at Patreon. But maybe most importantly, thank you for listening to this episode.